The bullet grazed so close to Gwen Walsh's cheek that she felt the heat of it before she heard the crack of the rifle. And in that suspended moment between breathing and not breathing, she knew her father's enemies had finally found her. She dropped low behind the water trough outside the general store in Winnetka, California, her heart hammering against her ribs as another shot splintered the wood above her head. The year was 1882, and the high desert town had seen its share of violence, but this was different. This was personal. The Rourke brothers had sworn vengeance when her father testified against them 5 years ago, and now that he was dead from consumption, she was the only Walsh left to punish. "Come on out, girl," a voice called from across the dusty street. "We just want to talk." Gwen knew better than to believe that lie. She pressed herself tighter against the rough wood, her cotton dress catching on splinters, and tried to think. The general store was closed for Sunday services, and most folks were at the church on the hill. She was alone, unarmed, and running out of time. Then she heard the sound of hoofbeats, fast and purposeful, coming from the south end of town. A single rider, moving with the kind of confidence that suggested he either had no sense or plenty of experience with trouble. Gwen risked a glance around the edge of the trough and saw him, a tall cowboy on a dappled gray mare, his hat pulled low against the afternoon sun. "Move along, friend," one of the Rourke brothers called out. "This is private business." The rider didn't slow down. Instead, he guided his horse directly between Gwen and the gunman, dismounting in one fluid motion. "Lady looks like she could use some help," he said, his voice carrying that easy drawl of someone who had spent more time under open sky than under roof. "And I make it a policy never to ignore a lady in distress." "Fool move, cowboy." "Would not be my first," the stranger replied, and Gwen heard something in his tone that made her think he was smiling. "Won't be my last either, I suspect." The shooting started again, but this time the cowboy returned fire with a revolver that seemed to appear in his hand like magic. Gwen had never seen anyone draw that fast. 2 shots, precise and measured, and she heard the Rourke brothers cursing, then the sound of them retreating, their horses kicking up dust as they fled. The cowboy holstered his gun and turned to her, extending a hand. "Name is Aaron Vaughn, miss. You hurt?" Gwen took his hand and let him help her to her feet, her legs trembling from the adrenaline. Now that she could see him clearly, she noticed he was young, maybe 25 or 26, with dark hair that needed cutting and eyes the color of whiskey in sunlight. There was a scar along his jaw, faded but visible, and his hands were calloused from hard work. "Gwen Walsh," she managed. "And no, I am fine. Thank you. You probably saved my life." "Those the Rourke brothers?" Aaron asked, squinting in the direction they had fled. "You know them?" "Know of them. Cattle rustlers and worse. Heard they got sent up to the territorial prison a while back." He looked at her with concern. "Why are they after you?" Gwen wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of how exposed they were standing in the middle of the street. "My father testified against them. He died last winter, and I suppose they decided to take it out on me." Aaron's expression hardened. "That is a coward's way, going after a woman for something her father did. They do not exactly have a reputation for bravery," Gwen said. She tried to smile, to show she was not as shaken as she felt, but her voice betrayed her. "I need to get back to my ranch. It is about 3 miles east of here. They might come back." "They will definitely come back," Aaron said bluntly. "Men like that, once they set their mind on something, they don't let it go easy." He studied her for a moment, then nodded as if coming to a decision. "I will ride with you. Make sure you get home safe." Gwen wanted to protest, to tell him she had imposed enough already, but the truth was she was terrified to ride home alone. "I have a horse at the livery," she said quietly. "I would appreciate the company." They walked together to the livery stable, Aaron leading his mare with easy familiarity. The stable boy was out, probably at church with everyone else, so Gwen saddled her own horse, a sturdy bay gelding named Copper. Her hands shook slightly as she tightened the cinch, and she was grateful when Aaron pretended not to notice. The ride to her ranch took them through rolling hills dotted with scrub brush and California live oaks. The November sun was warm despite the season, and the air smelled of dry grass and sage. Gwen kept watching the horizon, expecting to see the Rourke brothers reappear, but the landscape remained empty save for a few cattle grazing in the distance. "You run this ranch alone?" Aaron asked as they rode side by side. "I have a foreman, Miguel Sandoval, and 3 ranch hands. They are good men, but it has been hard since my father passed. We run about 200 head of cattle, and with the drought this year, the pasture is not what it should be." She glanced at him. "What about you? Where are you headed?" "Nowhere in particular," Aaron said. "I have been drifting since I left Texas about 2 years back. Work where I can, move on when the mood strikes." "What made you leave Texas?" His face closed off, just slightly, and Gwen knew she had touched on something painful. "Family trouble," he said after a pause. "The kind that does not get fixed with time or distance, but at least distance makes it easier to live with." She understood that. Some wounds went too deep for healing. They rode in comfortable silence for a while, and Gwen found herself studying him from the corner of her eye. He sat his horse like he had been born in the saddle, moving with the animal's gait in that unconscious way of someone who spent more time riding than walking. There was something about him that made her feel safe, which was strange considering she had known him for less than an hour. When they crested the final hill and her ranch came into view, Gwen felt a mix of relief and anxiety. The buildings looked peaceful in the afternoon light, the barn and house her father had built with his own hands, the corrals where they broke horses every spring. It was home, the only one she had ever known, and the thought of the Rourke brothers violating it with their violence made her chest tight with anger. Miguel came out of the barn as they approached, his weathered face creasing with concern. He was in his 50s, with gray threading through his black hair, and he had worked for her father since before Gwen was born. "Señorita Gwen, you are late," he called out. "I was getting worried." "We had some trouble in town," Gwen said, dismounting. "The Rourke brothers tried to ambush me." "This is Aaron Vaughn. He helped me." Miguel's expression darkened. "Los Hermanos Rourke. I heard they were released from prison last month. You are not safe here alone." "I am not alone. I have you and the men." "We are ranch hands, not gunfighters," Miguel said gently. "If those men come here, we will fight, but we may not win." Aaron had been standing quietly, listening, but now he spoke up. "I could stay on for a while, help out around the ranch and keep an eye on things. I don't need much, just meals and a place to sleep." Gwen turned to him, surprised. "You would do that? You said yourself you like to keep moving." "I did say that," Aaron agreed. "But I also have this inconvenient habit of finishing what I start. I helped you today, and the job is not done until I know you are safe." There was something in his eyes when he looked at her, something that made Gwen's breath catch. She told herself it was just gratitude she was feeling, nothing more, but she could not quite convince herself that was the whole truth. "All right," she said. "Thank you. I cannot pay much, but you can have the spare room in the bunkhouse and 3 meals a day." "That will do fine," Aaron said. Miguel showed Aaron where to stable his horse and get settled in the bunkhouse, while Gwen went into the main house. It felt too big now, too empty without her father's presence filling the rooms. She had tried to keep everything the way he liked it, but dust accumulated no matter how often she cleaned, and there were repairs she could not manage alone. That evening, she cooked dinner for everyone. a simple meal of beans, cornbread, and salt pork. The ranch hands ate in the bunkhouse usually, but tonight she invited them all to the main house so they could discuss the situation with the Rourke brothers. Besides Aaron and Miguel, there was Tom Bradley, a young hand barely 20, and the Whitman brothers, James and David, who were both married with families in town but worked the ranch during the day. They sat around her father's big wooden table, and Gwen laid out the facts as plainly as she could. The Rourkes want revenge for what my father did. I do not think they will give up just because they failed today. We need to be ready in case they come here. We should send word to the sheriff, James Whitman said. Get the law involved. The sheriff is in Sacramento this week for a trial, Miguel reminded him. His deputy is young, inexperienced. I do not think he would be much help. Then we defend the ranch ourselves, Aaron said. Post watches at night, make sure someone is always armed and ready. Keep the stock close so they can't stampede the herd, and Miss Walsh should stay armed at all times. Gwen bristled slightly at being told what to do, but she knew Aaron was right. I can shoot, she said. My father taught me when I was 12. Good, Aaron said, meeting her eyes. Because if they come, they won't play fair. Over the next few days, an uneasy routine established itself. The men took turns standing watch while Gwen tried to maintain the daily work of the ranch. Aaron proved himself invaluable, working harder than any hand she had ever employed. He mended fences, helped move cattle to better pasture, and even fixed the loose boards on the barn roof that had been flapping in the wind for months. What struck Gwen most was how he never complained and never acted like the work was beneath him. She had known plenty of cowboys who thought they were too good for manual labor, who wanted only the romantic parts of ranch life like riding and roping. Aaron tackled everything with the same steady competence, whether he was mucking out stalls or breaking a green horse. She found herself watching him more than she should, noticing the way his shoulders moved under his work shirt, the concentration on his face when he was focused on a task. Once, she caught him watching her in return, and the connection between them was so sudden and electric that she had to look away, her cheeks burning on the fourth evening after the incident in town. Gwen was in the kitchen kneading bread dough when Aaron appeared in the doorway. He had cleaned up after work, his hair still damp, and he held his hat in his hands like a nervous schoolboy. Miss Walsh, could I speak with you a moment, of course, and please call me Gwen. Miss Walsh makes me feel like a schoolmarm. She wiped her hands on her apron and gestured to the table. Sit down, I just made coffee. Aaron sat, turning his hat in his hands. I have been thinking about your situation here. The Rourkes have not shown up yet, but that does not mean they won't. They might be waiting, watching, looking for the right moment. I know, Gwen said quietly. I barely sleep anymore. Every sound makes me jump. That is no way to live, Aaron said. You are wearing yourself down, and if they do come, you need to be sharp. What do you suggest? He was quiet for a moment, clearly choosing his words carefully. I think I should move into the main house. Sleep on the sofa in your parlor. That way, if someone tries to break in during the night, I will be right there. Gwen's first instinct was to refuse. It would not be proper, having a man she barely knew sleeping in her house. People would talk, and her reputation would suffer. But then she thought about lying in her bed at night, hearing every creak and groan of the old house, wondering if each sound was the Rourke brothers coming for her. Fear won out over propriety. All right, she said, but you have to promise me you will not say anything to Miguel. He already worries too much. He cares about you, Aaron said. That is not a bad thing. I know, but sometimes I feel like everyone sees me as this fragile creature who needs protecting. I want to be strong enough to handle things myself. Aaron looked at her steadily. Asking for help when you need it is not weakness, Gwen. It is wisdom. And from what I have seen, you are plenty strong. You run this ranch, you feed all of us. You keep going even though you are scared. That takes courage. His words settled something in her chest, some tight knot of anxiety she had not realized she was carrying. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, Aaron made a bed on the parlor sofa with blankets she provided. Gwen lay in her own room, staring at the ceiling, hyper-aware of his presence in the house. It was strange having someone else there, but also comforting. For the first time in days, she slept through the night. The pattern continued. Days of hard work punctuated by moments of quiet conversation. Gwen learned that Aaron had grown up on a ranch in Texas, that his father had been a hard man who believed in discipline over affection. Aaron had left at 23 after a fight he would not talk about, and he had been drifting ever since, never staying anywhere longer than a few months. "Why not?" Gwen asked one afternoon when they were riding the fence line together, checking for breaks. "Why not settle somewhere?" Aaron was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. Then he said, "I guess I never found a place that felt like it needed me. Or maybe I never found a place I needed back." "That sounds lonely." "It is," he admitted, "but lonely is safer than the alternative." "What alternative?" "Caring too much. Letting yourself hope for something permanent." He glanced at her. "Hope can be dangerous when you have been disappointed enough times." Gwen understood that too. After her mother died when she was 8, she had hoped her father would remarry, that she would get a new mother. But he never did, and eventually she learned to stop hoping for things that would not come. When he got sick last year, she had hoped he would recover, but consumption did not care about hope. "Maybe," she said carefully. "Hope is dangerous because anything worth having is dangerous. Because if you never risk caring, you never get to have anything real." Aaron looked at her with such intensity that her mare shifted nervously beneath her, sensing her sudden tension. "You might be right about that," he said softly. 2 weeks after Aaron's arrival, the relative peace shattered. Gwen was in the barn in the early morning feeding the horses when she heard Miguel shouting. She ran outside and saw smoke rising from the south pasture, thick and black against the dawn sky. "Fire!" Miguel was yelling. "Someone set fire to the grass." Aaron was already running toward the horses, and Gwen followed, her heart in her throat. A grass fire in November with everything so dry could spread fast, could destroy the whole ranch if they did not stop it. They rode hard toward the smoke, and as they got closer, Gwen saw figures on horseback silhouetted against the flames. The Rourke brothers. "They are trying to burn you out," Aaron said grimly. "Stay here while I go after them." "No," Gwen said. "This is my ranch. I am coming with you." There was no time to argue. They rode toward the fire line, where Tom and the Whitman brothers were already trying to beat back the flames with wet sacks. The fire had not spread far yet, but the wind was picking up, carrying embers into the dry grass. Aaron went straight for the Rourkes, his revolver already drawn. Gwen followed, her own rifle clutched in sweating hands. She had never shot at a person before, had only hunted deer and rabbits, but she would do what she had to do to protect her home. The older Rourke brother, Jack, sneered when he saw them coming. "Should have left when you had the chance, girl. Now we are going to take everything from you, just like your father took everything from us." "My father testified to the truth," Gwen shouted back. "You were stealing cattle and you got caught. 5 years in prison," Jack spat. 5 years of hell because of your father's lies." Aaron positioned himself between Gwen and the Rourkes. "Last chance," he called out. "Ride away now or this ends badly for everyone." The younger Rourke brother, Ezra, laughed. 2 against 2, I like those odds." Everything happened so fast. Ezra drew his gun and Aaron fired first, his shot taking Ezra in the shoulder and knocking him from his horse. Jack aimed at Aaron, but Gwen raised her rifle and squeezed the trigger, the recoil slamming into her shoulder. Her shot went wide, missing Jack but spooking his horse enough that it reared and his shot went high. Aaron fired again, and this time Jack dropped his gun, clutching his arm. "Enough!" he yelled. "Enough, we are done." Miguel and the other hands rode up, having gotten the fire under control. They rounded up the Rourke brothers and tied them with rope from their saddles. Ezra was bleeding badly from his shoulder, and even Jack looked pale beneath his anger. "Tom, ride to town and fetch the doctor and the deputy sheriff," Miguel ordered. "These men need medical attention, and then they need to go back to prison where they belong." As Tom galloped off, Gwen dismounted on shaking legs. The rifle fell from her hands, and suddenly Aaron was there, catching her before she fell. "I have got you," he murmured. "You are all right, it is over." "I shot at a man," Gwen whispered. "I actually shot at him." "You defended your home and your life," Aaron said firmly. "That is nothing to be ashamed of." She clung to him, her face pressed against his chest, and felt his arms come around her, solid and sure. For a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them. The smell of smoke and sweat and horse, the sound of his heartbeat under her ear, the warmth of his body against hers. When she finally pulled back, she saw something in his eyes that made her breath stop. It was not just concern or friendship. It was something deeper, more complicated, and she knew her own eyes were reflecting the same thing back to him. "Gwen," he started, but she shook her head. "Not now, later, when this is really over." The deputy sheriff arrived an hour after the doctor, and by then the Rourke brothers were patched up and ready to be transported back to Sacramento to face additional charges. The deputy, a gangly young man named Peter Hughes, took statements from everyone and promised that the territorial judge would see to it that the Rourkes served significant additional time. "You won't have to worry about them again, Miss Walsh," Deputy Hughes assured her. "Attempted murder, arson, those are serious crimes. They will be lucky if they see daylight before they are old men." Gwen thanked him, but she felt numb, exhausted from the adrenaline and fear. After everyone left, she walked through the charred section of pasture, looking at the damage. They had lost maybe 10 acres of grazing land, which could have been so much worse. The hands had acted quickly, and the wind had shifted at just the right moment. Aaron found her there as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "You should come inside," he said gently. "Get some rest." "I keep thinking about what could have happened," Gwen said. "If you had not been here, if we had not caught it in time, I could have lost everything. But you did not. The ranch is safe, you are safe, and the men who wanted to hurt you are in custody. Thanks to you." She turned to face him. "I owe you everything, Aaron. You could have ridden on 2 weeks ago, but you stayed. You helped me when you had no reason to." "I had a reason," Aaron said quietly. "What reason?" He stepped closer, and Gwen's heart began to race. "I think you know," he said. "I think you have known for a while now, same as me." "Aaron," she whispered, but she did not move away, could not move away. "I am falling in love with you, Gwen Walsh," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I know I have got no right. No, I am just a drifter with nothing to offer you but trouble and hard work. But I cannot lie about how I feel. Not anymore." Joy and fear warred in her chest. "You said yourself that caring is dangerous, that hope has disappointed you too many times." "I know what I said, and I meant it when I said it. But then I met you, and suddenly I want to risk it. I want to hope again." Gwen reached up and touched his face, feeling the roughness of his jaw under her palm. "I am falling in love with you too," she admitted, "but I am scared." "What if it does not work? What if you wake up one day and realize you made a mistake, that you are not meant to stay in one place? What if I wake up every day for the rest of my life grateful that I found you?" Aaron countered. He covered her hand with his own. I won't pretend I know what the future holds, but I know I want to find out if you will let me. She kissed him then, rising on her toes to press her lips to his. It was tentative at first, questioning, but when he pulled her closer, deepening the kiss, she felt something settle into place inside her. This was right. This was what she had been missing without knowing it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Aaron rested his forehead against hers. "Tell me you want this too," he said. "Tell me I am not alone in feeling this way." "You are not alone," Gwen promised. "I want this. I want you. Then I am staying, for as long as you will have me." "What about your wandering? Your need to keep moving?" Aaron smiled, and it transformed his whole face, making him look younger, lighter. "I have been looking for something my whole life, Gwen. I just did not know what it was until I found you. You are my home now. Why would I want to wander when everything I need is right here?" They walked back to the house hand in hand, and that night Aaron did not sleep on the sofa. Gwen invited him to her bed, and they made love slowly, tenderly, learning each other's bodies in the lamplight. It was Gwen's first time, and Aaron was patient with her, gentle, making sure she felt safe and cherished. When it was over, she lay in his arms, listening to his breathing even out as he fell asleep, and felt more content than she had in years. The next morning, Miguel gave them a knowing look when they emerged from the house together, but he said nothing, just smiled and went about his work. The other hands followed his lead, accepting Aaron's presence in Gwen's life with the easy pragmatism of working men who had seen enough of life to know that love was rare and precious, and not to be questioned. Over the following weeks, Aaron integrated himself fully into the ranch's operation. He proved to have a good head for business, helping Gwen negotiate better prices for their cattle and making suggestions for improvements that would increase productivity. Together, they planned for the spring, deciding to expand the herd and maybe try breeding horses as well. One evening in late December, as they sat by the fire in the parlor, Aaron said, "I want to marry you, Gwen, properly with a church wedding and your friends there to witness it. Will you have me?" Gwen's eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she said. "Yes, of course I will." "I do not have much to offer you," Aaron warned. "No family to speak of, no money saved up, just my labor and my love." "That is everything I need," Gwen said. She took his hand. "But I need to tell you something. This ranch, it is all I have. My whole life is tied up in this land. If we get married, I cannot leave it. I know you said you are ready to settle, but what if that changes? What if you wake up one day and resent me for trapping you here?" Aaron pulled her into his lap, holding her close. "Gwen Walsh, soon to be Gwen Vaughn, you listen to me. I am not trapped. I am choosing this. I am choosing you, and I swear on everything I hold sacred that I will work this land with you, build a life with you, and never once look back and wish I had done different. Promise me," she whispered against his neck. "Promise me you will never regret this." "I promise," he said. "Now stop worrying about tomorrow and kiss me today." She did, and the kiss turned into more, and they ended up in her bed again, making love with more urgency this time, more certainty. Afterward, Gwen traced the scar on Aaron's jaw and asked him how he got it. "Bar fight in Amarillo," he said. "I was 19 and thought I was invincible. A man twice my size thought different. What were you fighting about?" He said something disrespectful about a woman who was working there. I took exception to his language. Aaron shrugged. "Got my face rearranged for my trouble, but at least I stood up for her." "You have always been a protector," Gwen said softly. "Even before you met me, I try to be. My father never protected anyone but himself. I swore I would be different." "Tell me about your father," Gwen urged. "You never talk about him." Aaron was quiet for a long time, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. He was mean, he finally said. Drank too much, and when he drank, he got violent. My mother left when I was 15, just disappeared one night. I do not blame her. I have thought about doing the same thing 100 times, but I had a younger sister, Mary, and I could not leave her alone with him. Where is she now? Married to a shopkeeper in Austin. Has 3 kids, last I heard. I have not seen her in 2 years, but she writes sometimes. She is happy, which is all I ever wanted for her. Why did you finally leave? Because one night I fought back. He came at me with a belt, same as always, but I was 23 by then, bigger than him, stronger. I grabbed that belt and told him if he ever touched me again, I would kill him. He believed me, so did I. Aaron's voice was flat, empty of emotion. I left the next morning and never went back. Figured Mary was safe enough by then. She was engaged, almost out of the house, and I was afraid of what I might do if I stayed. Gwen kissed his shoulder, his neck, his jaw. You are not like him, she said fiercely. You are nothing like him. How do you know? Because I have seen your kindness. I have seen how you treat people, how you treat me. Your father was a coward who hurt people weaker than him. You are a man who protects people who need protecting. There is no comparison. Aaron pulled her closer, burying his face in her hair. I love you, he said, his voice muffled. I love you so much it scares me. I love you too, Gwen said. And you do not have to be scared, not anymore, we have each other now. They were married in January of 1883, in the small church on the hill overlooking Winnetka. Miguel walked Gwen down the aisle, and Tom served as Aaron's best man. The church was full of people from town who had known Gwen all her life, ranchers and shopkeepers and their families, all come to witness the union. Gwen wore her mother's wedding dress, carefully preserved in a trunk, and Aaron wore a new suit he had bought with money from his first month's wages. When the preacher asked if they took each other to be husband and wife, they both said yes with voices that rang clear and true. And when Aaron kissed her, the congregation cheered, and Gwen felt a happiness so complete it was almost painful. The reception was held at the ranch, with tables set up in the yard and enough food to feed half the county. Someone brought a fiddle, and there was dancing until the stars came out. Aaron danced with Gwen for the first dance, and then with every woman who asked, young and old, making each of them feel special. Gwen danced with Miguel, with Tom, with all the men who had stood by her through the hard times. As the party wound down and people started to leave, Gwen found herself standing with Aaron under the oak tree by the house. Happy? He asked. Happier than I have ever been, she said honestly. I never thought I would have this. A husband who loves me, a future that looks bright instead of scary. I never thought I would have it either, Aaron admitted. I spent so many years running, convinced I did not deserve anything good, and then you walked into my life, and suddenly I had a reason to stop running. I almost pushed you away, Gwen confessed. When you first said you loved me, part of me wanted to tell you to leave, because I was scared. Scared of loving you and losing you, scared of not being enough to make you stay. Aaron framed her face with his hands. You will always be enough, Gwen. More than enough. You are everything. That night, in the bedroom they now shared, they consummated their marriage with a tenderness and passion that left them both breathless. Afterward, lying tangled together in the sheets, Gwen said, I want to have children with you. Is that something you want? Yes, Aaron said without hesitation. I want to fill this house with kids, teach them to ride, watch them grow up knowing they are loved and safe, everything I never had. We will give them that, Gwen promised. Together. The winter passed into spring, and with the warmer weather came new life. The cattle dropped their calves, and Aaron proved to be skilled at helping with difficult births. He worked from dawn to dusk, repairing the damage from the fire and improving the ranch's infrastructure. Gwen worked beside him, and together they built something stronger than either could have managed alone. In April, Gwen realized she was pregnant. She told Aaron one evening as they were sitting on the porch watching the sunset. His reaction was everything she could have hoped for. He picked her up and spun her around, whooping with joy, then set her down carefully as if she were made of glass. "A baby," he kept saying. "We are going to have a baby." "Are you happy?" Gwen asked, even though the answer was obvious from his face. "Happy does not begin to cover it," Aaron said. He knelt down and pressed his ear to her still flat stomach. "Hello in there, little one. This is your father. I cannot wait to meet you." Gwen ran her fingers through his hair, overwhelmed with emotion. A year ago, she had been alone, grieving her father, terrified of the Rourke brothers and an uncertain future. Now she had a husband who adored her, a thriving ranch, and a baby on the way. Life had a way of surprising you when you least expected it. The pregnancy progressed smoothly through the summer. Gwen continued working on the ranch, though Aaron and Miguel conspired to keep her away from the heaviest labor. She spent more time on the bookkeeping and planning, less time in the saddle, though she still insisted on riding her mare at least once a week until she got too big to mount comfortably. In August, a letter arrived from Aaron's sister Mary. She had heard about his marriage through mutual friends and wanted to congratulate him. The letter was warm and full of news about her children, and she included a photograph of her family. Gwen could see the resemblance between Aaron and his sister, the same dark hair and strong features. "You should write her back," Gwen urged. "Tell her about the baby. Family is important, Aaron." "She is the only family I have," Aaron said quietly, "and I have not been much of a brother to her. It is not too late to change that." Aaron wrote to Mary that night, a long letter detailing his life over the past 2 years, his marriage to Gwen, the ranch, the coming baby. He mailed it the next time they went to town, and 3 weeks later, Mary wrote back expressing her joy and hoping they might visit California someday so her children could meet their new aunt and uncle. "She wants to come here," Aaron said, sounding amazed. "She wants our children to know each other." "Of course she does," Gwen said. "You are her brother. She loves you. I do not deserve her forgiveness." "Maybe not, but she is giving it anyway. That is what family does." In November, a week before Gwen's due date, she went into labor. The midwife, a capable woman named Mrs. Henderson, arrived quickly and set up in the bedroom. Aaron paced in the parlor, driving Miguel and Tom crazy with his nervous energy. "She will be fine," Miguel kept saying. "Women have been having babies since the beginning of time." "That does not make it any less terrifying," Aaron replied. The labor lasted through the night and into the next morning. Aaron wanted to be with Gwen, but Mrs. Henderson firmly banished him from the room, saying he would only get in the way. So he waited, listening to Gwen's cries of pain and feeling helpless, useless. Finally, as the sun was climbing high in the sky, he heard a new sound. A baby crying, strong and healthy. Mrs. Henderson opened the door, smiling. "You have a son, Mr. Vaughn, and your wife did beautifully." Aaron rushed into the room and found Gwen propped up in bed, exhausted but radiant, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a soft blanket. "Aaron," she said, her voice hoarse, "meet your son." He took the baby carefully, afraid he might break something, and looked down into a wrinkled red face topped with dark hair. The baby's eyes were closed, but as Aaron watched, they opened, revealing deep blue irises. "Hello, little man," Aaron whispered. "I am your father, and I promise I am going to do everything right by you. You are going to know you are loved every single day of your life." "What should we name him?" Gwen asked. They had discussed names throughout the pregnancy but never settled on one. Now, looking at his son, Aaron said, "What about William?" "After your father," tears filled Gwen's eyes. William Vaughn, I love it. William Vaughn it is, Aaron said. He carefully placed the baby back in Gwen's arms and kissed her forehead. Thank you. Thank you for him, for choosing me, for giving me this life. Thank you for staying, Gwen said softly. Thank you for loving me enough to stop running. William was a good baby, sleeping more than he fussed and nursing eagerly. Gwen healed quickly from the birth, and soon life settled into a new rhythm that included midnight feedings and endless diaper changes, and the particular exhaustion that came with caring for an infant. Aaron proved to be a devoted father. He would walk the floor with William when the baby was fussy, singing old cowboy songs in his rough voice until William settled. He changed diapers without complaint and was always willing to take over when Gwen needed to rest. You are so natural with him, Gwen said one evening as she watched Aaron giving William a bath. I thought you said you did not know anything about babies. I do not, Aaron admitted. I am just doing what feels right and hoping I do not mess it up too badly. You are not messing anything up. You are a wonderful father. I am trying to be the father I never had, Aaron said quietly, trying to show William every day that he matters, that he is wanted. Gwen went to him and wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her head against his back. He is so lucky to have you, she said. We both are. That winter was the coldest anyone could remember, with snow falling in the hills and temperatures dropping below freezing at night. They kept the fires burning constantly, and Aaron insulated the barn as best he could to protect the livestock. William thrived despite the cold, growing plump and healthy, his dark hair thickening and his eyes changing from blue to the same whiskey color as his father's. In the spring, Mary wrote to say she was planning to visit in June with her husband and children. Gwen and Aaron spent weeks preparing, fixing up the guest rooms and making sure everything was perfect. When Mary's family finally arrived, Gwen liked her immediately. She was a smaller, softer version of Aaron, with the same warm eyes and ready smile. I cannot tell you how happy I am to see my brother settled, Mary said to Gwen as they sat on the porch watching the children play. Mary's 3 kids were running around with William, who at 6 months was fascinated by the older children. After everything he went through with our father, I was afraid he would never let himself have a real life. He told me about your father, Gwen said carefully. It must have been hard for both of you. Aaron had it worse than me, Mary said. He was older, so he took the brunt of it. He used to step between our father and me, take punishments that were meant for me. I owed him so much, and then he just disappeared. I was angry at first, felt abandoned. But then I grew up, got married, had children of my own, and I understood. He gave me the best gift he could. He left so I would not have to watch him destroy himself fighting a losing battle. He has never stopped caring about you, Gwen said. He talks about you all the time, wonders how you are doing. Well, now he knows, Mary said with a smile, and now I know he is happy. That is all I ever wanted for him. The visit lasted 2 weeks, and by the end of it, Aaron and Mary had rebuilt their relationship. They still had gaps to fill, years to catch up on, but the foundation was there. Love and forgiveness and the shared understanding of where they had come from. After Mary left, Aaron was quieter than usual for a few days. Finally, Gwen asked him what was wrong. Nothing is wrong, Aaron said. I am just thinking about how different my life could have been. If I had not come to Winnetka that day, if I had not helped you in town, I would still be drifting. I would have missed all of this. You, William, the ranch, reconnecting with Mary, all of it. But you did come to Winnetka, Gwen said. You did help me, and here we are. Here we are, Aaron echoed. He pulled her close. Sometimes I still cannot believe this is real, that I get to have this. Believe it, Gwen said, because it is real, and it is ours, and I am never letting you go. The years passed with the easy rhythm of ranch life. William grew into a bright, curious boy who followed his father everywhere, learning to ride before he could read. When he was 3, Gwen gave birth to a daughter they named Grace, with her mother's red gold hair and her father's eyes. 2 years later, another son arrived, James, named for Gwen's father's middle name. The ranch prospered under Aaron and Gwen's joint management. They expanded the herd, added horses to their operation, and earned a reputation for honest dealing and quality stock. Miguel grew older and eventually retired, though he still came around most days to offer advice and play with the children. Tom married a girl from town and started his own small ranch on land adjacent to theirs. The Whitman brothers remained loyal hands, their own children growing up alongside the Vaughn kids. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Aaron surprised Gwen by taking her on a trip to San Francisco, leaving the children in Mary's care. They stayed in a hotel overlooking the bay and spent 3 days exploring the city, eating at restaurants and walking hand in hand through Golden Gate Park. "I never thought I would want to leave the ranch," Gwen said as they watched the sunset over the ocean. "But this is nice too." "It is," Aaron agreed, "but I am already looking forward to going home." "Me too," Gwen said. She leaned against him. "Home is wherever you are, though." "You know that, right?" "I do know that," Aaron said. "And I thank God every day that you took a chance on a drifter with nothing to offer but his love." "You had everything to offer," Gwen corrected. "You just did not know it yet." They returned to the ranch refreshed and eager to see their children. William, now 10, had done a good job helping manage things in their absence, and Aaron made sure to tell him how proud he was. Grace, at 7, showed them pictures she had drawn of the family. James, at 5, just clung to his mother and refused to let go for an hour. That night, after the children were in bed, Aaron and Gwen sat on the porch as they had done countless times before. The stars were bright overhead, and the night air was cool and sweet with the scent of grass and sage. "Do you ever regret it?" Gwen asked suddenly. "Giving up your freedom to settle here?" Aaron looked at her in surprise. "Where is this coming from?" "I do not know. Sometimes I worry that you will wake up one day and realize you made a mistake, that you traded your dreams for mine." Aaron took her hand and held it tight. "Gwen, look at me. Really look at me." She did, and saw in his eyes the same love she had seen on their wedding day, only deeper now, strengthened by years of shared joy and struggle. "My dream was never to keep drifting," Aaron said. "My dream was to find somewhere I belonged, someone to belong to. You gave me that. This ranch, our children, this life we have built together, this is more than I ever imagined for myself. I have never regretted a single moment, not one. Not even when William broke your nose with that baseball." Gwen asked, trying to lighten the mood. Aaron laughed. "All right, maybe I regretted that moment, but overall, no regrets." "I love you," Gwen said. "I need you to know that. Even after all these years, even with the daily routine and the hard work and the challenges, I love you more now than I did the day we got married." "That is good," Aaron said, pulling her into his lap, "because I feel exactly the same way. And I plan to keep loving you for the next 50 years, so you better get used to it." "I think I can manage that," Gwen said, and kissed him under the stars. As the children grew older, the ranch continued to thrive. William showed a real aptitude for the business side of things, helping his father negotiate deals and manage the accounts. Grace was the best rider of the 3, fearless on horseback and already talking about competing in rodeos when she was older. James was quieter, more thoughtful, with a love for animals that suggested he might become a veterinarian someday. Aaron taught all 3 children to shoot, to ride, to work hard and treat people fairly. He never raised his voice in anger, never lifted a hand to them, breaking the cycle of violence his own father had started. He told them every day that he loved them, showed them through his actions that they were precious and valued. Gwen watched him with the children and felt her heart swell with gratitude and love. He was everything she had hoped for in a partner and more. He made her laugh, supported her dreams, shared her burdens, and loved her with a constancy that never wavered. One day when William was 15, he asked his parents how they met. They were all at dinner, the whole family gathered around the big table, and the question seemed to come out of nowhere. "Why do you want to know?" Gwen asked. "There is a girl at school," William admitted, his ears turning red. "I like her, but I do not know how to talk to her. I thought maybe if I knew how you and Pa got together, it might help." Aaron and Gwen exchanged amused glances. "Well," Aaron said, "I saved your mother from some men who were trying to kill her. Then I fell in love with her while working on her ranch, so my advice would be to start by rescuing the girl from mortal danger." "Aaron," Gwen said, swatting his arm, "do not tease him." She turned to William. "The truth is, your father showed up when I needed help most. He was kind and brave and hardworking, and when I tried to push him away because I was scared, he refused to go. He fought for us, even when I made it hard. I tried to convince her I was not good enough for her," Aaron added. "Told her I was just a drifter with nothing to offer. But she saw past all that to who I really was." "So what do I do about the girl?" William asked. "Be yourself," Gwen said. "Be honest about how you feel and treat her with respect. If she is the right girl for you, she will see your worth." William nodded thoughtfully. "Thanks, Ma. Thanks, Pa." Later that night, after the children were asleep, Gwen said to Aaron, "I cannot believe William is old enough to be interested in girls. When did he grow up?" "When we were not looking," Aaron said. "Same way we all grow up, I suppose." "Do you ever wish we could go back?" Gwen asked. "To those early days when it was just you and me figuring things out?" Aaron considered the question. "No," he finally said. "Those days were special, but these days are better. I love watching our children grow, seeing pieces of you and me in them. I love the life we have built together, the legacy we are creating. The past was good, but the present is better, and I suspect the future will be better still." "You are right," Gwen said, settling into his arms. "As long as we are together, every day is better than the last." When William was 18, he left to attend college in Sacramento, planning to study business and agriculture so he could come back and help run the ranch more effectively. It was hard for Gwen to see him go, but Aaron reminded her that they had raised him to be independent and capable, and now they had to trust him to make his own way. Grace, at 15, was indeed competing in local rodeos and winning more often than not. She had her mother's determination and her father's fearlessness, a combination that served her well in competition. James, at 13, was volunteering at the local veterinarian's office every Saturday, learning everything he could about animal care. Aaron and Gwen found themselves with more time alone than they had had in years. They took advantage of it, rediscovering each other without the constant demands of young children. They would ride out to the far pastures together, make love under the open sky like young lovers, talk for hours about everything and nothing. "I never thought I could be this happy," Gwen confessed one afternoon as they lay in the grass by the creek, watching clouds drift overhead. "When I was younger, I thought happiness was something that happened to other people. But here I am, 42 years old, and I have everything I ever wanted." "I know the feeling," Aaron said. He was 44 now, his dark hair threaded with gray, lines deepening around his eyes from years of squinting into the sun. But to Gwen, he was as handsome as the day they met, maybe more so because now she knew every facet of him, every strength and weakness and quirk. I spent so many years running from happiness because I did not think I deserved it, and then you taught me that I did." "We taught each other," Gwen said. "You taught me that I was strong enough to protect what was mine. I taught you that you were worthy of love. We made each other better." "The best partnership I could have asked for," Aaron agreed. As the years continued to pass, the ranch remained the center of their lives. William returned from college with his degree and a wife, a smart young woman named Sarah who fit seamlessly into the family. They built a house on the eastern section of the property and started having children of their own, giving Aaron and Gwen their first grandchildren. Grace never did settle down, preferring the rodeo circuit to domestic life, though she always came home between competitions and regaled them with stories of her adventures. James became a veterinarian as expected, setting up a practice in Winnetka and caring for animals throughout the region. Aaron and Gwen grew older together, their bodies wearing down from years of hard work, but their love remaining strong and true. On their 30th wedding anniversary, Aaron took Gwen back to the spot where he had first seen her, behind that water trough in town where she had been hiding from the Rourke brothers. 30 years, he said, shaking his head in wonder. 30 years since I rode into town and saw a woman in trouble. Best decision you ever made, stopping to help me, Gwen said. Best decision I ever made was staying, Aaron corrected. Anyone could have helped you that day. But I chose to stay to build a life with you, and that choice changed everything. They stood there for a moment in comfortable silence. Then Aaron said, "Do you remember what you said to me once, right after we realized we loved each other?" I said a lot of things. "You will have to be more specific. You said you were scared, that you did not want to hold me back from the life I wanted." Gwen did remember. It had been one of her deepest fears in those early days that Aaron would come to resent her for tying him down. "I remember," she said quietly. "You said, I will only hold you back. Do you remember what I said?" "You said, then hold me close, that is all I want." Aaron nodded. "I meant it then and I mean it now. You never held me back, Gwen. You launched me forward. You gave me purpose and direction and love. Everything good in my life started the day I met you." Tears filled Gwen's eyes. "You gave me everything good too. I was alone and scared, and you showed me I did not have to be either of those things. You loved me when I felt unlovable. You stayed when I expected you to leave. You built a life with me that exceeded my wildest dreams." They held each other there on the street where they met, and Gwen felt the circle of their life together closing, everything coming back to this moment, this place, this choice they had made to love each other despite the odds. Aaron and Gwen lived to see their children grown and successful, to hold grandchildren and even great-grandchildren. They celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, surrounded by a family that included dozens of descendants, all of them carrying forward the legacy of love and hard work that Aaron and Gwen had established. On a warm spring evening, when Aaron was 74 and Gwen was 72, they sat together on the porch of the ranch house as they had done thousands of times before. Aaron's hands were gnarled with arthritis, and Gwen's hair was completely white, but they still held hands like newlyweds. "Tired?" Aaron asked. "A little," Gwen admitted, "but happy, always happy when I am with you." "Same here," Aaron said. He squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you, Gwen." "For what?" "For taking a chance on me, for loving me, for building this life with me. For giving me 50 years of happiness when I thought I would spend my whole life alone." "Thank you for staying," Gwen replied. "For choosing me over your freedom. For being the man I needed, the partner I wanted, the father our children deserved." They sat in silence as the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold. The land stretched out before them, the ranch they had built together, the legacy they would leave behind. No regrets, Gwen asked, the same question she had asked so many times over the years. Not a single one, Aaron said, the same answer he always gave. You. Only that I wish we could do it all over again, Gwen said. Live every moment twice. Once was pretty perfect, though, Aaron said. Yes, Gwen agreed, resting her head on his shoulder. Yes, it was. As darkness fell and the stars came out, they remained there together. Two souls who had found each other against all odds and built something beautiful that would last long after they were gone. The ranch would continue under William's capable management. The grandchildren would grow and have children of their own. The love story that started with a cowboy stopping to help a woman in trouble would be told and retold, becoming family legend. But in that moment, none of the future mattered. Only the present, only the feeling of Aaron's hand in hers, only the knowledge that they had loved well and been loved in return. That was enough. That was everything. Years later, long after both Aaron and Gwen had passed peacefully into the next life, their great-granddaughter would stand on the same porch and ask her grandmother about them. And she would be told the story of how a drifter cowboy named Aaron Vaughn rode into Winnetka, California, one November day in 1882, and found his destiny in the form of a woman named Gwen Walsh, who needed saving. She would be told how Gwen tried to push Aaron away, afraid she would hold him back from the wandering life he loved. And she would be told how Aaron looked at Gwen with love in his eyes and said, "Then hold me close. That is all I want." It was a story about courage and choice, about two people who found each other when they needed it most and built a love that lasted a lifetime. It was a story about the Wild West, about ranchers and cowboys, and the hard work of making a life from unforgiving land. But most of all, it was a story about love, the kind of love that transforms people, that makes them better, that gives meaning to all the struggle and hardship. And every time the story was told, the person telling it would smile and say that Aaron and Gwen were proof that true love existed, that sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected places, and that when you found the right person, you held on tight and never let go. The ranch still stood, passed down through generations, a testament to what Aaron and Gwen had built together. And on quiet evenings when the wind blew just right, some said you could still feel their presence there. Two spirits forever entwined, still holding each other close the way they had promised to do all those years ago. Their love story became the foundation that the entire family was built on, an example of what devotion and commitment and unwavering support could create. When family members faced hardship, they would remember Aaron and Gwen and find strength. When marriages went through rough patches, couples would think of those two and remember that love required work and patience and forgiveness. The land that Aaron and Gwen had worked so hard to protect and improve continued to flourish. The cattle they had raised bred true, generation after generation. The horses they had trained produced offspring that were sought after throughout California. Everything they touched had become something lasting, something valuable, something that enriched the lives of everyone who came after. But beyond the material legacy, beyond the land and the livestock and the buildings, what Aaron and Gwen really left behind was the example of their love. They showed their descendants that love was not just a feeling but a choice made every day. They demonstrated that partnership meant supporting each other's dreams, sharing burdens, celebrating victories together. They proved that with the right person by your side, any obstacle could be overcome, any challenge could be faced. Their story reminded everyone who heard it that love could heal old wounds, that people could change and grow, that it was never too late to find your place in the world. Aaron had been running when he found Gwen, convinced he was not worthy of happiness or stability. Gwen had been alone and frightened, sure she was destined to lose everything her father had built. Together, they had created something neither could have achieved alone. And so the tale continued to be told, passed from generation to generation, each time reinforcing the values that Aaron and Gwen had lived by: hard work, honesty, loyalty, love. These were the pillars they had built their life on, and these were the principles that continued to guide their family long after they were gone. In the end, what more could anyone ask for than to be remembered with love? To have lived a life that mattered, that touched others, that left the world a little better than they found it. Aaron and Gwen had done that. They had loved deeply, lived fully, and created a legacy that would endure for generations. Their story was complete, their circle closed, their journey finished. And it had been a journey worth taking every step of the way. From that first moment when Aaron decided to help a stranger in trouble, to the final evening when they sat together on their porch watching the sunset, it had all been worth it, because in the end, love was worth it. Love was always worth it. And Aaron and Gwen's love story stood as eternal proof of that simple, beautiful truth.